ChatGerry Hemoglobin Glycation Index, HGI, or Hemoglobin A1c gap, glucose flow versus accumulated glycation damage, paper number 1497, VPT Sharp 058, January 8, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Category, Diabetes, Systems Medicine, Metabolic Physics. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 1990. That was 36 years ago. For the first 12 years, I depended mainly on medication, especially metformin. I paid very little attention to lifestyle, or to how my glucose behaved day by day. During that period, my lab hemoglobin A1c stayed extremely high, between 10% and 13%. Looking back, medication alone did not save me. From 2002 to 2017, after leaving Silicon Valley, finger piercing was the only practical way to monitor glucose. I measured 4 times a day, 1 fasting value in the morning and 3 post-meal values. This gave me only snapshots. Most of my daily glucose behavior remained invisible. Years of finger piercing even damaged my fingerprints enough that airport scanners sometimes could not read them. In 2010, I began to seriously study endocrinology on my own. I focused on food, exercise, stress, sleep, and daily habits. At the same time, I stopped all medications and supplements. My body was no longer exposed to chemicals. I relied only on natural food, not processed food, and strict lifestyle control. After that change, my lab hemoglobin A1c slowly fell from about 13% to around from 7.0 to 7.5%. This improvement came entirely from lifestyle, not medication. In 2018, after CGM became available, I started collecting glucose every 15 minutes, up to 96 readings per day. Early CGM software did not connect well with my own health software, so I manually transferred the data. That work was slow, but it forced me to look closely at every pattern and trend. Automation can hide important details. Careful observation often matters more. From 2018 to 2026, I collected nearly 300,000 glucose data points. Since 1990, I also had lab hemoglobin A1c tests about 3-4 times a year. Altogether, I have collected more than 4 million data points across glucose, blood pressure, heart rate, sleep, food, and activity. When I compared CGM-based glucose data with lab-tested hemoglobin A1c, I saw a persistent mismatch. My CGM-derived hemoglobin A1c ranged widely, from about 5.4% to 8.5%. My lab hemoglobin A1c stayed in a narrow band, about 5.8% to 7.4%. This difference is often called the hemoglobin A1c gap. Clinicians kept telling me that lab hemoglobin A1c was the gold standard. But if that were true, why measure glucose continuously at all? Why collect 96 points per day instead of 4? No one could give me a clear answer. I heard only medical jargons. This puzzled me for more than a decade. I was not asking how to lower a number. I was simply asking a system question. Why does controlling glucose every day slow damage, but not erase damage already recorded by hemoglobin A1c? The answer is simple once you separate two different things from physics lens. CGM and finger stick glucose show daily glucose fluid flow. They show what is happening now. They measure current stress on the body. Lab-tested hemoglobin A1c does not show flow. It shows a solid state of historical effects. It reflects how much sugar has already attached to hemoglobin over time. Once that damage is recorded, it fades slowly. Improving glucose today does not instantly erase past damage. Think of pressing your thumb into clay. Years of hard pressure leave a deep dent. Later, lighter pressure prevents further damage. But the old dent does not disappear. This is not a chemistry phenomenon. It is a basic physics and mechanics phenomenon. The body behaves the same way. So, CGM-based hemoglobin A1c and lab hemoglobin A1c are not supposed to match. CGM shows present stress. Lab hemoglobin A1c records past damage. Both can be true at the same time. Over more than 15 years, my glucose flow improved. My lab-tested hemoglobin A1c fell from about 13% to about 7%. Damage slowed. It was not erased, but progression was reduced. That is exactly what should happen in a system with memory. From this view, a lab hemoglobin A1c of 7% in someone who once lived at 13% is not failure. It is success in slowing damage, even if traditional medicine charts call it suboptimal. Most clinicians are trained to focus on targets and thresholds. They are not trained to distinguish glucose flow from energy and damage, accumulation, or reversible stress from irreversible damage. This is not personal failure. It is a limitation of current medicine training that emphasizes biology and chemistry, but avoids mathematics, physics and systems thinking. For patients, this distinction matters. I am not failing glucose control because my lab hemoglobin A1c did not reach down to 6%. Rather, I am succeeding at slowing my glucose damage. CGM matters because it shows daily stress. Lab hemoglobin A1c matters because it shows accumulated damage. Comparing them directly without understanding their roles leads to blame and confusion. More than 500 million people worldwide live with diabetes, about 6.2% of the population. Most do not think in equations or pathways. They think in effort, discipline, fear, and daily survival. Clear language is not a weakness. It is a strength and a demonstration of responsibility. My body is my own medical laboratory. Nearly 90% of my research is based on my own health data. When I look at curves and graphs, I feel them. They carry my fear, my family's worry, and years of lonely study done to stay alive. This path was not chosen for fame, money, or curiosity. It was forced by necessity. I studied to save myself. Only later did I realize it might benefit other patients. At least for me, this finally closes the hemoglobin A1c gap puzzle. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only, and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.